Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.
Here in episode 35, we have joining us Taki Darakos, Vice President of Maintenance at Pitt, Ohio, where we talk about what his fleet is doing to create new pipelines for drivers and technicians through apprenticeship programs. We also talk about what causes the company to embrace new technology, the relative ease of the integration and rollout of safety technology, and the harder journey to electric trucks. He also reminds us that with any technology, it is still about moving the freight. Today we have joining us Taki Darakos, Vice President of Vehicle Maintenance and Fleet Services at Pitt, Ohio. Hello, thanks for joining me today, Taki.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me. Thanks for allowing me to take some time with you.
First of all, I always ask my friends how we met. I mean, this whole thing's entitled Freight Efficiency with Mike Roth and Friends. So do you remember sort of how we came to know one another?
It was either a TMC or an NTA conference, and it was when you were just talking about starting NACFE, and you had a vision of where you wanted to go with it, and people have their name badges, and you just strike up a conversation, and that was the conversation that we had. And I remember I think back then it would have been more than a decade ago, maybe 11 years ago. And back then I was working for FedEx, and had just really fairly recently been introduced to TMC and the power of it, and NTA. And I was involved in some hybrid hydraulic work back then, but I think it was over breakfast, and I thought, wow, what a really interesting person. And he's got a long journey ahead of him, but we'll see where it goes. And I kind of, for many years, have watched you kind of grow the momentum and grow the network and become more and more visible in the industry.
Let's start with Pitt, Ohio. Let's just get grounded in the work you're doing there right now. I mean, what do you haul? What are the number of trucks, and sort of what are the big things on your plate right now with inside the trucking industry with doing what you're doing there?
Sure. I think from a Pitt, Ohio standpoint, we're a family-owned company. We've been around for 41 years. Started in Pittsburgh, just running freight back and forth between Pittsburgh and Ohio, and grew from there. Today, we are a collection of 5 less than truckload companies and a supply chain group that runs from up in New England, down into the Carolinas, and across to Nebraska. So I'll say, for the purpose of this conversation, I'll just focus on Pitt, Ohio as the original organization that started and the base of the company. We're about 850 Class 8 tractors, 600 straight trucks, a mix of non-CDL and CDL, mostly Class 7 straight trucks though, and close to 2,300 trailers. And our footprint is really primarily in the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic. That's where you're going to see a lot of Pitt, Ohio trucks and trailers running on a monthly basis. We run about 9 million miles. And you asked the question, what do we haul? And if we walk the dock right now, you would find air compressors, you would find TVs, you would find Monster energy drinks, you would find paint. It's a very eclectic customer base in terms of whose products we move through our network. I
think just the fact that you've got so many straight trucks, so many heavy tractors and trailers, and have that mix of CDL and non-CDL, I mean, that's unique. But it offers a lot of challenges and huge advantages. I mean, I think for those that just haul heavy tractors in one segment, or they just are in smaller, I mean, they end up, they're focused, and that helps you from a business standpoint, but it can get a little myopic, and I don't know. I think just having that mix probably helps in some ways. Some of those technologies are transferable. Some of them make you think harder about even the CDL and non-CDL. Tell us a little bit about that. How in this driver shortage, And also, I think there's been a trend over the last decade or so to moving freight up to, baby 8, class 8 tractors. And that class sort of 6, 7 medium duty is sort of, we've built less of them in the last 10 years than we did in prior decades. And just tell us a little bit about that. That's kind of different for our audience.
One of the things from an LTL standpoint, I mean, we have a lot of drivers that have grown up with Pitt, Ohio. So they've been here a long time, and we're going through a transition now in terms of, like everybody else, people are retiring, they're moving on in the next chapters of their journeys. So we have been on I think now it's probably a 5 or 6 year journey to create a pipeline of new talent and new drivers coming into the organization. So we have an apprenticeship program that we've geared up. We will bring people into our docks. They will learn the freight movement business on the dock, and then we'll start to transition them or grow them into larger vehicles. So they will progress maybe from the dock into a transit or a sprinter, then maybe into a 18-footer or a 24-foot non-CDL truck, and potentially up into the larger CDL straight trucks, or even become a tractor trailer driver. So we've tried to build a path of progression and a pipeline that can supplement our driver force. We don't have a lot of turnover. I mean, generally we have some turnover from the retirements, like I mentioned. We do on occasion have people leave for other opportunities. And then, sometimes we are safety conscious and safety sensitive. We will lose drivers just because of accidents that are just, maybe accidents that shouldn't have happened. They were related to behavior, and we'll make a decision to move on. So we've seen more of a mix in the fleet. I mean, today we're probably, we're working towards maybe a 55-45 split in terms of tractor trailers versus straight trucks. I think primarily looking out and looking at the freight that's being moved, as well as what's the workforce going to look like moving forward. So we've been on a path and a journey, and it's kind of evolving and taking shape. We've had some success with the apprentice program, but it's a work in progress. And then we're doing something similar on our technician side. We just really started ramping up in terms of a VOTEC apprenticeship type programs in our shops with local VOTEC programs that can kind of help prepare technicians for working out in the industry. And, if we have an opportunity to hire them when they graduate from high school, we'll bring them on board. If we don't, then hopefully we've set them up to be successful in what we think can be a pretty rewarding career path as a technician these days.
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting topic. I mean, right now it's a complete and very important right now. I mean, we've got some of the national sort of work psychology folks are looking at, they're talking about the big quit, right? Where people are, coming out of the pandemic, people of all ages are looking at their careers and they're saying, man, I want to go do something I want to go do something else, and taking time off, moving careers, even moving industries. And I think for fleets like you're describing and running there, you've got the base opportunity because you're in different businesses with, dock work and different types of trucks to drive, different office jobs and so forth. You've got more roles to move people around, and I think within the company that's strong. And then, like you just ended your comments, let's keep these folks in the industry. And if they go from one company to a next, or from a fleet to a manufacturer to maybe they come work for NACFE for a while and then they go somewhere else. I think that's I think that'll make the industry really strong. Any of that resonate with you?
No, absolutely. I would say, Mike, I maybe I'm an example of some of this. I remember back in 2001 coming out of the Army, and a lot of people telling me at the time, I had interviewed with a number of different industries, different companies, And I remember somebody saying when I had finally settled in on Schneider, trucking company, really? You're a educated junior military officer, and are you really going to go work out in LA for a trucking company? And I took it back then because of the values, because of the opportunity to work with people. And today I look back and I'm of Greek heritage. I had a Greek mom that said, you can do better. I think she had her sights set on a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. And 20 years later, she's kind of shaking her head and said, I think you did good. What I have found is just a lot of wonderful people. And then the 20 plus years I've been in this transportation niche and maintenance in particular has been just a rapid acceleration of technology and an evolution. And we are so bombarded today with data and analytics, and the landscape's moving so fast that there are tremendous opportunities for people that want to grow, want to learn, aren't afraid to kind of put their hand up and say, yeah, I'll try it. And that's really defined what my journey's been. I mean, I came out of the military not knowing, if I looked at a bunch of trucks, I couldn't tell you the difference between a Freightliner or International, or I don't think I even knew what a fifth wheel was at the time when Schneider put me in a shop. And but I know it's almost comical, but I had a good group of techs on the shop floor and some managers around me that, they knew that I cared about people. I wanted to learn, and they gave me an opportunity to do it. And 2 years later, I was running probably the third largest maintenance facility for Schneider out in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and just really have been amazed at the journey and where I am. And I talk to kids today. I did a mentor Zoom call with some folks in their Pittsburgh public school system at the tail end of the spring of this year, and talk to them about, when you think about trucking and transportation, don't just think about a truck driver or a mechanic, because there are IT jobs and HR jobs and finance jobs. And there are so many roles, operations, leadership. There's so many roles kind of behind the curtain.
This is really important, I think, for our industry. I think we've got a long history of doing this modestly and quietly, but we're like others. It's the keep your head down, stay at one company, work hard, progress up it. And I think that model is pretty much gone. And the better way we support talent moving around and getting all this expertise and experience, will be stronger for it. So let's move on to kind of with these technologies that you just mentioned and moving forward. NACFI's doing all this work on saving diesel fuel and operating tractors, trailers, trucks more efficiently, and then on to all this zero emission work. That in some ways is coming faster than a lot of people think. But I'd really like your thoughts on what drives you personally and the fleet there to work on. I know you got windmills, you got battery solar on some facilities, you're working on electric trucks. I mean, what causes you to lean in, or not lean in, you're kind of jumping in when that can be, like we mentioned earlier, you got freight to haul and customers to take care of, and that takes a lot of work. So what's causing you to do that?
I think a lot of it comes from senior leadership. I think it comes from the vision of our president, Chuck Campbell, and the senior leaders in the organization. Sustainability is a core tenet in what we do. We try to be good partners in the communities that we're in, and our mantra of we're always there for you. It starts with our people. So I think what we found, we've been on probably an 11-year journey in terms of sustainability, and you mentioned some of the things we've done. I mean, more than a decade ago, we started with solar, and eventually progressed to some wind turbines. And these aren't your big, few 100-foot turbines. They're 60-foot, we'll call them micro turbines, but we've just seen a value in bringing things forward. I can tell you we introduced electric forklifts in our docks maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and to be in a quieter dock and a cleaner dock and less emissions, it resonates with our people. And then when you start to talk to customers today, they are taking notice. So we've got a number of LEED certified facilities. We have 2 of our locations have wind, solar tied into on-site microgrids, and to your point, we're getting ready. If I can get my 2 medium duty electric trucks, we'll start down that journey. And it's I think what drives us is we want to be good citizens in the community. We want to be good business partners. We think we have to do some of this. At times it can be challenging, right? I mean, I think we're in kind of Amazon Prime free shipping mentality and try and whittle things down to the lowest buck. But I think what we do see now is there are customers that are coming, and they want to know what your emissions profile is, and they want to know what your fuel economy in the fleet is, and what are you doing to be sustainable and to be good community partners. And I think if we can all get on that path and journey, we can kind of accelerate this and move it along at a faster pace. But
yeah, I mean, I'm always about threes. I mean, people laugh at me, that you're the 3-legged stool guy, but I think here a mentor of mine many years ago said, Mike, in a good old Southern Indiana drawl, he said, Mike, a two-legged stool doesn't work, and 4 legs are too many. So I guess that's me. But the way I view this is we've always had, total cost of ownership driving our decisions in trucking, which is so good. I mean, we're fact-based. We don't get emotional in purchases, and we figure things out. 1, 2. There is, this sustainability, sort of grassroots. It comes in out of our, guts and our being, and then into our actions that's happening. And that's showing up with customers, and customers ask, just basically moving and asking for and demanding some of these things. So to me, I think that's that, it sounds a little, not altruistic, but sort of like, but it's getting into us taking action in these areas. Take us through. So as then you go execute, Taki, I mean, what are, and you end up kind of on the bleeding edge of some of this. I mean, maybe walk us through something that's gone easier than you thought and something that's gone harder than you thought. And maybe the harder you already mentioned with your electric truck work, but maybe take us through a couple of quick examples, something that went easier over the last 10 or 11 years in this area and something that's more challenging than you thought.
I think from an ease standpoint, I think just the technology that's integrated on the safety technology that's come into the fleets has been fairly easy and fairly simple to roll out and integrate. I mean, I'm a maintenance guy, Mike, so a lot of this stuff I always, up front I'm asking the questions, how easy is it going to be to support and maintain? And, no matter how much you put in on the front end from a CapEx standpoint or a spec standpoint, you're not going to get your money's worth if it's a year later, it's not working. So I think a lot of that technology, because of our safety culture and how engaged and involved we are in that aspect of it, a lot of this lane departure and collision mitigation and, the technologies that are out there, quick, easy adoption, and then really good support from our OEM partners. The hard stuff, this electrification journey, it's not easy. I mean, even an organization that has microgrids and renewables and is active in the space and has learned a little bit from, electric forklifts and all that, there's still some significant learnings. And I think that's where it's helped to have relationships with CalSTART and NACFE and some of the Clean Cities organizations, and you mentioned something about bleeding edge, and I've been in my role at Pitt Ohio for about 3 years now, and when I came here, my boss had said, we'd really like to go down this path and this journey, and you start to read a lot of the articles, and 3 years ago, I think a lot of material and transport topics, a lot of heavy duty trucking, and you read about it and you think, oh yeah, we got a little bit of catching up to do, and now I'm deep into it. Just a week and a half ago, we were installing some 75 kilowatt DC level 2 chargers in our Parma facility, and I'm thinking about it all and saying, well, I'm really not that far behind. I'm kind of on the leading edge of it now because I'm in.
Yeah.
And we're doing this in a small organization, but everyone's embraced it. We've worked closely with our partners. We've done the due diligence in terms of where do these fit in terms of duty cycle and how will we support them so that we don't put something out there that's going to be a flop from a operation standpoint and a customer base standpoint. I mean, ultimately, it's still about moving freight and getting people the products that they want, when they want them, and where they want them to go to. And we're going to build this into it.
I feel the same way, very much the same way as you. We came at this battery electric trucks as, oh, you got to be joking. Batteries all freight, no way. And then we kind of got into the, yeah, it can, and it can even in heavy. And then it was like, well, can it now be affordable? Will the truck OEMs want to do it? And we had the Tesla launch event. We had the many manufacturers come to the party, small trucks, big trucks. And then, we got into, well, okay, maybe it can be done, but what about at any kind of total cost of ownership? And the last couple of years have been, well, wait a minute, these trucks are pretty simple and we don't have some of the emissions equipment. So maintenance, we'll see about it, and drivers love them. And, we just completed Run on Less electric. And now I think we're into the, all right, they can haul the freight. They likely can do it in many ways, at a business case. I mean, I'm not saying that's, for sure, but, for many of these duty cycles and situations. And now it's, ooh, my goodness, this is going to be hard to execute, whether it's getting power to the facility or, dealing with electricity costing and so forth. So on electric trucks and, this sort of, class 6 medium box trucks, as well as, lower, sort of the smaller end of class 8 tractors, what are some things that need to happen in your mind, given what you've done in the last couple of years, throughout the whole ecosystem of making these trucks go? I mean, what are the key areas that, and I'm going to take notes because this is what, I'm going to looking forward to hearing what you say with respect to what NACFE does in this area, but what needs to happen and kind of who should do it in the next couple of years?
Well, I think first and foremost, Mike, I think it's the infrastructure's got to be in place. I mean, I think we have a lot of work to do to support, large fleets of battery electric trucks, or, I think that's the biggest thing that stands out. I think that the costs of batteries and the technology have to continue to come down. I mean, right now the business case isn't necessarily there. It's not a slam dunk that these are vehicles that are going to offset a conventional unit today from a ROI standpoint. But I think that's the biggest thing. I think as the technology evolves, I think they're going to be able to do more of what the conventional units do. I've seen that kind of move forward, and I think that that the operations will change. I used to look at it and say it's got to do exactly what a current technology vehicle does today, but I think there's some sort of hybridization. I think the important work that needs to be done is to continue to educate folks and prepare them. And I think organizations like NACFE and CalSTART, I think the OEMs are being diligent and much more prudent in terms of who gets these vehicles, and making sure that there's been some due diligence, at least in this early adoption phase of making sure folks are prepared to be able to support.
Yeah. One thought that's been going through my mind is, a fleet and a location, may not go 100% electric. Keep 2 or 3 diesel trucks for those longer hauls, those days where, you need to go make longer trips and so forth, and get focused on how to take advantage of the technology. But it may require, we're not going to upset the whole operations of trucking to take advantage of all technology, but some little changes here and there fleets should be really thinking about as they look at these technologies. So, hey, thanks a lot, Taki. We covered a ton of ground, and best of luck to you. Thanks for being on.
Thanks so much, Mike. You be well.
Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.